Hi and welcome to TOTECS, the non-stop e-commerce platform providing integrated websites that work for you. Today we'll be looking at the changes we've made within the 15.0 and 15.1 releases into the TOTECS platform, offering 1 new feature, 18 improvements and 11 bug fixes. The 15.1 release adds support into the order checkout process to allow orders to be paid for using 3D Secure credit card payments when using Eway's payment gateway. 3D Secure provides enhanced security around credit card payments so that after a user has entered their credit card details at the order checkout, they then may be required to log into their card's banking website to verify themselves or receive an SMS code. Once done, the payment can be verified and the order submitted. This can reduce the chances of stolen or fraudulent credit card payments occurring without the knowledge of the cardholders. This takes the risk off you as a seller, since the merchant bank may cover the order's cost if they allowed the fraudulent card to be used. This may be very valuable if you sell direct to end consumers in the retail space, especially if you're using the guest order checkout features. In the 15.1 release, we add additional protections for when payments for orders and invoices made using credit card payments on content managed websites. Users are now limited to the maximum of 5 failed credit card attempts before being blocked from making any further attempts in their logged in session. Additionally, Recaptcha can be embedded in credit card payment forms for guest order checkout submission areas to reduce the chances of bots or hackers brute force guessing credit card details. This provides additional security to protect your business from fraudulent credit card payments and reduces fraudulent payment attempts from reaching the bank's systems, reducing the chances of suspending your merchant account. The 15.1 release added the ability for order data to be sent across to Google Analytics for when an order has been submitted from a content managed website. If this is turned on, then basic order data and product lines can be optionally sent to Google Analytics account using Google's Tags Manager feature. Using this ordering data, Google can then collate and provide additional insights into your sales. This is particularly useful for retail-based ordering, where Google may be able to provide additional information about the guest users who are ordering, such as their location and demographics, when users are logged into a browser using their Google account. This capability can be turned on an individual order checkout submission area, allowing different order data to be sent to differing Google accounts. The 15.1 release adds the ability to send additional order data across to PayPal when orders are paid using PayPal's payment method. If turned on, this allows payment to receive additional delivery address information about the order and may provide seller protection that can protect your business in case a fraudulent payment was made for the order. This once again is particularly useful for retail and guest checkout when you don't have an established relationship with the customer, where PayPal may wear the cost if a fraudulent payment occurs when they know more information about the order. In the 15.1 release, we rebuilt the multi-file uploader within the administration center to support all the latest popular web browsers and dropped all support for Flash. This allows multiple files for products, categories, and library files in content managed websites to be uploaded by first selecting and queuing the files, then pressing a single button to start the upload for the files queued, showing the status of each file being uploaded. In the 15.0 release, we added the ability to set the ordering value of product images when uploaded within the administration center, when the image file name contains an ordering value within the square brackets. This may be useful if a list of product images are directly uploaded to the administration center from a local computer, and being able to control the sorting within those file names instead of having to do this within the product editor post-upload. This can save time and effort for administrator users. The 15.1 release, we added the ability to show additional attribute values for products assigned to each make model within the make model products content managed webpage area. This allows users to see attributes that are specific to the particular model that a product may be assigned to, and these attributes could include installation instructions, limitations, or other useful details. This may help users to choose the right product for the model they own, increasing sales or reducing returns and refunds. The 15.1 release added a setting to control the receiver name that is embedded in orders that are sent to SmartFreight. This is useful when the receiver name should change based on if the order is for an individual person or for an organization, allowing either the person's name or the organization to be set in the receiver name field. The 15.1 release added additional search rules to the Product Search Administration Center interface to allow products to be found based on when certain product fields do not have values set. This can make it easier for administrator users to identify products that are missing certain data, ensuring that the products sold have all the data they require to make it easier for customers to purchase those products. The 15.0 release adds the capability for users to customize how products are sorted within their shopping list, as well as the quantities saved against the shopping list. This can make it easier for users to find and add regular products to basket based on products they deem of higher importance than others, such as most frequently purchased or products that are most needed, as well as update the quantity based on their future needs. The 15.0 release added the ability to customize how combination product data is sorted when displayed within a product detail content manager webpage area. This includes how listed child products are sorted, as well as combination fields and field values. This may be useful when highly customized sorting needs to be displayed to users, such as showing values and child products of greater importance, popularity, or logical ordering. The 15.0 release added the ability to show freight carrier and tracking data with invoices retrieved from connected business systems when displayed in the customer account invoice content manager webpage areas. If the connected business system contains the freight data set against the invoices, then this data can be presented to users, making them aware of the freight carrier that is delivering the ordered goods and getting the code to track the delivery. This may help provide additional information on when the goods are expected to be delivered and by whom. Now, if that's not enough, there's a whole bunch of smaller improvements not featured in this release video that can be found by going to the TOTECS.com website, going to the Help menu, clicking on the Forums link, and then scrolling down to the Releases forum. We can see all the details of both the 15.0 and the 15.01 releases, and where you can find more details explaining each of the changes that have been made within those releases. And feel free to subscribe to the TOTECS YouTube channel in order to receive notifications when the next release videos come out. Now let's look in depth to the changes we've made in this release. Within the 15.1 TOTECS release, we've added the ability to support 3D secure credit card payments when payments are being made for orders and those payments are going through the Eway payment gateway. So if we take an example, I've got a product in my shopping basket here, and if I proceed through the order checkout process and choose to pay using the credit card payment method, upon entering the credit card payment details, normally just do a check, we'd send that information across the payment gateway, which would then verify it with the merchant banks and then return back a response and allow the order to be submitted. So 3D Secure provides an additional step where we need to validate the holder of the credit card to make sure they are the legit person and that credit card isn't being used by a fraudulent person. Now you click on the Pay button. Eway will redirect the user across to the bank of the credit card holder, where they have to verify their account or their details before that payment is allowed to be made. So in this case, if I was paying with a Visa-based card that was issued from NAB, for NAB in particular, they may send out a SMS containing a specific code, which then I would then have to enter in before I can click on the next button. And only once that has been verified, and NAB in this case has verified that I'm the legitimate card holder, if those details were correct, then the user would be then redirected back to the Content Manager website, where the order would then be attempted to be submitted and receive the confirmation result of that. Now there is a few things to be aware of. In the 3D secure environment that the user is taken to that is associated with their credit card, that interface will change depending on which bank they issued the card and which authentication methods they want to use. In this example, NAB may be using an SMS code, but in other banks they may require the user to log in with their bank credentials, or they may have other two-factor authentication mechanisms using emails or other methods in order to do that. So this is going to vary, and not necessarily all banks support 3D Secure as well, so it may depend on those card holders depending on if this is allowed or not. Now in order for this to work, there is some setup work that is required first. The first thing that needs to be done is that you need to set up an account with Eway. And if you have an existing account with Eway, then you need to enable 3D Secure within your account. Now, before you can do that, you need to check with your merchant bank account whether or not it enables and allows support 3D Secure. If it doesn't, you may need to sign up with a different bank that enables that kind of capabilities, since that bank is going to be wearing the costs if a fraudulent transaction does occur. Those details then set up and 3D Secure enabled in the Eway account. Within Eway, you'll need to set up API credentials, since this new 3D Secure uses the newer version of Eway's APIs in order to pass credit card details, as well as redirect the user to allow Eway to redirect to the 3D Secure authentication pages. I'm here in the Sandbox Eway account, but it would be the same process for a real Eway account. Under the My Account menu, within the API key page, you need to set up an API key if it doesn't already exist, and then you need to generate a password for that key. Then once we've got those credentials, both those credentials, within the administration center of the TOTECS project, If we click on stores and go down to the payment setting interface, under the credit card section, there is a new credit card payment gateway option. So there is this one called Eway with 3D secure support / API version 3, since this is the version we're now using for Eway. And then if we've got that set, besides having the merchant ID and credit card passwords that would already be set for an existing Eway account, we now need to put in that API key and password that was generated in Eway's portal. With those settings now set, and click on the save button, now when users proceed through the order checkout process and use the credit card payment method, if they've got it available for their account, the 3D secure method can now be used to enable those credit card payments to take place. Now when the user gets redirected back from the secure 3D authentication pages from their bank, TOTECS will talk to Eway to check transaction had succeeded. If it hadn't succeeded, for many reasons why the bank would have rejected that card, the user will see an error providing what was the cause for the transaction to fail. And there are many different reasons. Eway provide a page of all the different types of errors that may be returned. And one of the ones that is going to maybe more common to appear is this suspected fraud message. This means that the cardholder's bank has rejected or Visa has rejected because they're suspicious of the card that is being used. That is one of many errors that may return to the user even after entering their details and authenticating themselves. And that is because there are several different banking systems involved in order to check that the card is legitimate, that it's not being used for fraudulent transactions, and the details of the user are not suspicious. By using Secure 3D, it's providing more checks, and the bank's having to be more diligent about what transactions they allow to go through, and that means more users may get rejected for several different reasons, as is highlighted in Eway's error page. And if you're unsure about a certain error, I'd recommend looking at the error list that we'll post in the video's description, and also talking to Eway if it's still not clear of what the problem is. It is important to note that this is only supported with the Eway payment gateway and not the other payment gateways, and it's only for order payments. It's not for invoice payments or payments made through the administration center. In those cases, the profile would revert back to the Eway with the card CSV number checks in order to allow that. So you need to make sure that you've got the customer ID and the credit card passwords for Eway's account set up as well to allow those payments to happen. Within the 15.1 release, when users pay for orders or invoices using the credit card payment method, now we've put in limits to the amount of times that they're allowed to have failed credit card payments in a row. And if after 5 failed credit card attempts are made, then they will no longer be able to make any more credit card attempts in their user session. So if we take an example here, we've got an order for $49.50, we've got 3 product quantities in the basket. So when I'm going to enter my credit card details, after keying these details, if I've entered the credit card details and I've entered the incorrect credit card details, or the credit card payment gateway has rejected that card, the user will see an error message here, such as we're putting the incorrect credit card number, or as well as the incorrect expiry date for the card. Now the user is allowed up to 5 attempts to click on the pay button and submit these credit card details through. So if the user did this process again and entered the credit card details again for the 5th time, then after clicking the pay button, the user will now receive an error message where it says they're unable to process the credit card because the maximum number of payment attempts have been reached. So this method protects against users being able to try too many times to put in credit card details. It's specifically targeting hackers and automated software that will try to attempt to do to make thousands upon thousands of credit card payment attempts and use your website in order to do that. So this is an additional protection mechanism that we've put in place. We have also put in the ability to have a Recaptcha form also be put into the credit card form to make it even harder again, so that automated hackers and robots cannot use the credit card form to make the payments. Now, to enable Recaptcha to also appear in the credit card form, if you go into the administration center under stores menu under the payments interface, if we go to the credit card section, there is now a setting here called require Recaptcha for credit card payments. If that's set to yes, then that means that we would have a Recaptcha appear here, and then the user has to click on that in order to allow the payment to go attempts to be made. So that makes it more difficult for automated bots in order to do that process. As well as setting that to yes, you would also have to set up the Recaptcha credentials, and that can be done to go into the website settings. where you can then set up the Recaptcha site key and Recaptcha secret key that you would enter when you sign up and create a Recaptcha account with Google. Now, if you do turn on the require Recaptcha for credit card payment setting to yes, you also need to make sure that within your Content Manager website, for any Content Manager web pages that have auto checkout submission areas, you need to make sure the payment credit card form format that is assigned to an area has the Recaptcha field hook embedded in the form. That allows you to control where this Recaptcha form element should display. So you may want to put it above or below the other credit card fields, or you might want to left align it as opposed to align it with the other column in the form. This format provides that control of where you want that element to appear. Without that field appearing, if the user tried to submit the order, they would get an error message where the Recaptcha code has not been passed, and because of that, the credit card payment attempt will fail. Now, if the setting is not turned on, this format hook will be left as empty, but you may want to stop that if you want to clear the space that would otherwise be left behind from that. Within the TOTECS 15.1 release, we've modified the order checkout process. When users are paying for orders using the PayPal payment method, there is the ability to pass additional order information across to PayPal. And because of that, then PayPal may allow additional protections in case a fraudulent transaction happens, such as the user uses a fraudulent credit card or payment method that PayPal had allowed. Look at the existing workflow. Once the user has put products in their basket, such as we've got 3 product quantities here, they select the payment method as PayPal and click the next button. When the user clicks the next button now, TOTECS has the option to pass their delivery address information, and then once that user has logged in, by entering their user credentials, the user will now be able to see their delivery address information that they had previously selected within the order details screen. And note that they cannot change this address information here within PayPal itself. It's only within the website that they're allowed to change that. That makes sure that the same order address data information is the same between both the website and PayPal. And then the user can decide to choose their payment option. And then once that's confirmed, they'll be taken back where they can then submit this order. Then the order has been successfully submitted. Now, if you log into PayPal as the seller and we go into a payment transaction, for these orders, we'll be able to now see the additional address information that has been passed on to the orders. PayPal may also indicate if there is seller protection enabled for this order, because it now knows where the order is being shipped to, as well as the credit card information will give it clues as to whether or not this is a legitimate customer, or if they're being used a fake or incorrect address details, and PayPal may not allow that payment to happen. But if they do, then they'll cover the cost if it is a fraudulent in payment. To enable this additional seller protection within the TOTECS Administration Center, if you go into Stores, go under the Payment Settings, under the PayPal section, there is a new setting here called Set Delivery Address in Order Payments. So if that is set to yes, then when the user proceeds through the order checkout process, their delivery address information will be passed across to PayPal. By default, it is set to no. Now, the reasons why you may not want to provide the delivery address information to PayPal is because you're giving more information about your customers to PayPal, and you may need to check their terms and conditions of what they can do with that information, such as they may have their own analytics reports that they use that information. So if you want to be very protective of your customers' address information, then you leave this setting set to no, but then you may wear the cost if fraudulent transactions occur with those orders, but you'd turn this on to yes if you want to enable seller protection, and because of that, you're going to pass in the delivery address information across to PayPal for your customers. Now, if this is set to no, then when the user proceeds through the order checkout process, the user will not be able to see their delivery information in that order. So that is the key difference with that one setting. So this additional protection mechanisms is particularly important if you're using guest order checkout where users are not signing up and where the chances of fraudulent transactions may increase. By passing this additional order information that may stop fraudulent transactions occurring, or if they do occur, PayPal may cover, and you just need to check in the orders themselves to make sure that PayPal is covering by seeing seller protection for the payments that are landing in their system. Within the TOTECS 15.1 release, we've modified the multi-file uploader that exists in several locations within the administration center to no longer be a Flash-based uploader, but now to be a native web page based or HTML5 based uploader. So within the administration center, from the websites menu, if you click on the websites, then for a content managed website within either the image libraries or the attachment libraries, if you wish to upload multiple files to a library, you need to click on the select files to upload to library button. Then on your computer, you can select one or multiple files. You can use the control and left mouse click to select multiple files, or you can also use the left mouse click and the shift key to also select multiple files that you need to upload to the content managed website. Upon clicking the open button, these files will now be placed in a queue waiting to be uploaded, but note that they are not being uploaded as yet. That doesn't happen until we click the start file upload button. Click on that, you can see that each of those files will then get uploaded, and you can see the percentage completion rate as the queue gets processed. So we can see we now have our 4 files that have been uploaded, and once they're uploaded, if you click the start upload button again, these files would not be attempted since they've already been completed. So if you want to clear that list, and then you can then select other files that you may wish to then have uploaded, and at any point in time you can select to go back and select more files to add to the queue. Now the exact same functionality works also within the data menu for the product images import. If you want to upload multiple files, you can also click the same select files to upload to library button and select the product image files, but note that these files would have to have the product code within the image file name, otherwise they will fail. So let's have a look at a failure situation. So there's our 3 images that that were waiting to be uploaded. So if we click that button, you can see that if those fail because it cannot find the product or save the file to the server, you'll get the error message that appear here. If we take an example where we target a specific product, and so let's try it again. So we have a product here called Kensington CD Mailer Subline Pack. So let's try to upload images for that product. And then you can see that those product images were able to successfully match up the product based on its code. And note that anything in the square brackets is not included, doesn't need to be included in the code. That's used for sorting purposes. And then those files have now been all uploaded. Now we can clear that list off when we're done there. Now this exact same functionality also happens in the categories images import, where we can also select multiple images for our categories, and it's the same deal where we have to get the category codes in the file names in order to then upload them against the correct categories. So using this file uploader, it works across all the popular web browsers, including Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Microsoft Edge, the older Internet Explorer. Other popular browsers support the standards of the web. I note that though, if you are managing categories and product images, it's usually best to use the connector software. If possible, since you can use datasets to provide more information about those images when they're getting uploaded, whereas only relying on file names gives us a limited amount of information that we can populate. Within the 15.0 release, we've added an improvement to the administration center to make it easier to upload product images and have them ordered when the images are uploaded themselves. If we've got example products like here where we can have multiple images assigned to a product, if we're uploading product images via the administration interface, we may want to control how these product images are sorted at the time the upload is taking place. If we go into the administration center, go into the inventory and go into the product editor, we've got a product here, and so we want to upload some more images to this product. As we can see here, for each image we have the ordering field, which controls the order in which product images show for the same product. So when I choose to upload a file, if the file has the square brackets within the file name, then the value or the number within the square brackets denotes the ordering value that needs to be set. So let's take an example where we're going to upload this product image here, has the value 3 in the square brackets. Now when we look at that product image, we can see that it has set the ordering value to 3. So this is relevant if you're uploading product images to the administration center interface and you want to control the ordering of those images from within the file system itself. So we know that this image here is going to have an ordering value of 2, regardless of if it's the first, second, third, or fifth image uploaded against that product. If there is no value there set there, then the default ordering value gets set to 0. we can go through there and confidently upload that image, and we know that it's going to have the ordering value of 2. So when we look at the images for that one product, we know that the third image that we uploaded is put into the second position, and the first image that we had just uploaded has been put into the third position there. Now if we clear out those images from the product and we go into the product images import, this is when it becomes really easy, because if we have the images that contain the product code and the ordering value there, and we select those 3 images, upload them, back within the product editor, we can see that they've all got the correct values that have been set there, and we didn't have to upload those images one by one. And they're also correctly showing in the correct ordering that we had set in the file system. So using this mechanism, we can control the ordering of the images within the file system when we're naming our files, and we can change them to reflect how we need the positioning of those images when they're being uploaded against those products. If you're managing lots of product images, such as hundreds or thousands, that's when this can be a very handy and useful mechanism for the administrators. But we would also generally recommend using the connector if you're managing that much image data, since the connector allows you to put far more information about these product images in, using its datasets feature, or tying them back to your underlying business system that has that product data stored. Within the 15.1 TOTECS release, we've added the ability to display attribute values for products when assigned to specific models within the make model feature. Now to explain what that all means, within our example website here, we have the ability to search and find products based on the models where they can be installed or associated to. So if I'm looking at printers, for example, I might be able to choose Epson as a printer, and then choose a printer model from there, and choose the particular year that that printer was released out. From there, I can then go and view the products of that printer, and within this printer we could then have multiple products which are assigned to the printer. So if we're talking about we may want to purchase ink cartridges for our printer, since they often need to be replaced, so we need to buy some new ones. And so in this example, we have 3 different ink cartridges that we can purchase for this printer. So the new capability we've added here is that we can now set up attributes and display additional information about the products being assigned to a particular model under a given category. So for our ink cartridge here, this black ink cartridge, we created some additional attributes, which attributes is just really think of them as fields that you add to given products or given relationships. So we've created 2 fields here, or attributes, called expected life as well as installation instructions. So we can see here for this ink cartridge, it should last for 2 years, or the printing of 500 sheets. We have some installation instructions to tell us how to install this ink cartridge on this printer for this case. But if we had this product assigned to another printer cartridge, we may set up different attribute values that describe different ways that we can install this product or deal with other information. So this new capability allows your customers and end users to be able to find additional information that is relevant to the products that they're wanting to buy for the models that they either own or to perform maintenance on. Now, in order to set this up, there's a few things that need to happen. From the administration center, firstly, we need to have set up attribute profiles. In our product attribute interface, I've set up this attribute profile called printer, and I've set up those 2 attributes that we saw, installation instructions and expected life, but I could create any number of different fields or different attributes that I wanted to. So another attribute we may want to add is called printing quality. So what is the quality of the ink cartridges that they print out? So we create that attribute, now that's added to our list. Now if we go into the make models interface, from here we need to create the models. Now we can either import models from the connector or other associated business systems, or we can create them within the administration center interface itself. And then so here's our Epson printer that we had before. We can look at the products that are assigned to this model, and there is a new column that is now appear here called attributes, and that's where we can then start setting attributes and attribute values against a particular product assigned to a given model in a given category. So click on the attributes, it'll tell us how many attributes have already been set up, or attribute values have been set for that one particular product. And we can see the information that we had before that we're showing. So this is where we can set that data up. So I would choose the attribute profile I want to set up a value for, then the field which that is relevant to. So we were looking at printing quality, so we can, and then for our printer quality attribute, we can give it a value of that this particular product is good on all paper types. So we'll click on the add value, they'll add that value to the list of attributes for that given product assigned to that model. Now typically, if you want to do this attribute data, it's much better to use the connector and using its datasets functionality, because it facilitates this, or to manage the attribute data in your business systems and export it and import it into a TOTECS platform. You don't have to manage it all through the administration center, and it can be quite hard when you're dealing with thousands or tens of thousands of products to manage it that way. So there is capability to import these values in, as well as manage them through the administration center. Now that's all the data work that is being taken care of, but we still need to configure the model products area that appears on the Content Managed web page, so we can set up the layout of how this attribute data should look like. So that's when we need to go into the websites interface, click on the websites menu item, and from within here we would have set up a page to be able to display the details of a model, or we would need to create one that would have a model product area that then allows us to display all the products assigned to a given model. Now there are new formats we've added to this area, the model products area. This is called the model product attribute value record and the model product category record. So this format here is to control the overall details of a single product assigned to a model. It's each of these records that this format is controlling, and within there's a couple hooks here where we can embed the product search record, which is used to display the key details of the product itself. But if you want to put, as well as the attribute data, the collection of attribute values which are assigned to that product for that model. So we can embed that now in the format. And we've got this third hook here, which we can use to hide or show different elements for when attributes are or are not assigned to a given product. So I've crafted up some very basic demonstration point of view here, where it's basically going to say use a class in order to hide or show the attribute section. So that's this section here, if the product contains attribute values, or to hide it if it doesn't. Now, in a normal circumstance, you'd put this as a rule in a CSS file. You don't want to put it on in the format, because that would just duplicate a lot of needless data needs to be downloaded. But this is for demonstration purposes only. So once we've got that set up, what this is going to do is it's going to put the details of our product embedded into the record here, as well as it's going to embed the overall list of attribute value records, and we've got a heading that we can customize the labeling on that as well. So we could have called, instead of attributes, could have called it attribute values, and that then would change the label here on how that's shown. And we can also control the layout and the way it displays there. Now within this model product attribute value records, what that does is it gets the collection of the model product attribute value record format. For each attribute value assigned to a product, it will bundle them up into that hook, and then this format controls the individual pieces of data for each attribute value assigned. So that's controlling the format here that is showing both the name of the attribute and the value of the attribute. So in this format, I want to show the name of the attribute in bold, but I want the text to display as in normal text, and I've also put a break line so that way it displays underneath. But I could format it in many different ways. I may want it to have it so it aligns with the columns a lot better. I could have it right aligned, or I could have it on single lines for each attribute value key pair. So that's what this format here is, controlling that individual record, which is then getting listed out for all the attributes that are assigned to that one given for this model. Now there is one last thing that we need to do within the model product area itself. It has a new setting here called display model product attribute values. Now by default that is set to no. We need to change that to be yes if we want them to display. If that is set to no, then this data would never appear and it will remain, it will just disappear. So it needs to be turned on, but you don't want to turn this on if you're not showing attribute values or need to show attribute values for models, because it causes additional workload on the server in order to get that additional attribute value data. So if it's not needed to be shown, then it's best to leave it to no. If it is need to be shown, then set it to yes. So once we've done that, we've set up our format. We need to assign the formats that we're going to use to the area. And then once we've got all that in place, we can then reload the page, all the attribute data that we are expecting to appear for that product. Within the 15.1 TOTECS release, we've added a new capability within the Product Search Administration Center interface to be able to find products where they don't have values within a particular field of a product. So if we click on the search category all products and go to the second last option here, so we can find all products where they don't have a value set, in this case, say in the description field. So we can find that we've only got one product here that has no value set in the first description field of a product. Now this is very handy because we can now go into that product within the product editor, and we know we now need to enter a description for this product. And so we've got many different choices on which product fields we want to look at. So we could look at any of the product description fields, the barcodes, the brand, the supplier, the SEO meta description fields, which are used for SEO. We've got all those values that are available to us. And here's an example where we're finding all products that have no value in the supplier field. Now you may not want to edit these description fields, or can edit these description fields in the product editor, because descriptions may be being managed in a separate system. So you've got choices where you could export the list of products out, and we may want that spreadsheet file to contain just the supplier and product code fields, since that's what this particular search is correlated to. Or you could just look at this and change the results per page, and then do a lookup on each of these products in the associated system and enter the missing field data into that, such as in the connector's dataset, or in that external system that's storing that data. This provides a quick and efficient way to basically generate a report that can tell you where there's data missing in your TOTECS project. Now you can do the reverses too. You may want to find all products that do have a value set in a particular field, so we can also do a search on that, as well as we can do other matching searches that are already available here as well. That is also possible. And note that this search rule can also be used in other locations within the administration center, including the product deals and vouchers. You may want to set up a product search rule, find all products where the supplier field is empty, and then that can then assign all those products to the deal, where then the deal can be redeemed by your users. This can be useful for both reporting and help administrator users to find and fix up their missing data in your inventory, as well as use that missing data to your advantage within the products, deals and vouchers interface to assign products en masse to a given deal. Within the TOTECS 15.0 release, we've added the capability for users to now be able to customize the way that products are sorted within shopping lists, as well as to change the quantity for each product in the shopping list as well. To take an example, if we're logged into a content managed website, we may have a web page set up that allows us to search for shopping lists. If we go into the details of a shopping list, then on that page that contains a shopping list products area, we've added additional hooks that allow the user to have further controls over their shopping list. So we can see here I've got 3 products within my shopping list that I've called my weekly shopping list, which may contain products that we order on a weekly basis. And now I may want to change the ordering of these products, because certain products we typically order more often, and we don't want to have to scroll down too far to find those products. So we've got these shipping tags here. We may want to make them the top product in the list. We can choose from a drop down here to change that sorting option. So now we can see that the shipping tags are now the first product in the list as opposed to the last. And for any product you can see here, you can change its sorting value by just selecting the different option here. Now, besides that, the user can also change the quantity. So you may want to set how much quantity of a given product that you want to purchase. In this case, we're using this for a weekly shopping list. We've added inputs here where the user can specify a value for that product, and if they click on the change quantity, it will then save that quantity to their shopping list, so the next time they reload that shopping list or go back to it, the quantity is there, and then they can then buy that much quantity of that specific product. I've done some very limited styling in this example, but this allows you to customize where you position both the sorting drop down field. So you may not want it in this column, you may want it to appear in another row, and you may want to style it differently. Same with this change quantity button, you may want to put that more as the same style as this button over here, and same with the input, you may not want it to be so large. So there's a lot of flexibility here in where you can position these elements. And we can do that if we go into the Administration Center interface, clicking on the Websites menu button and clicking on the Websites interface. Within there, we would have a content managed web page that has been created that contains a shopping list products area, such as I've got here. For the existing formats that appear in this area, so the one that we care about here is this shopping list product record. That format controls how each individual product record is displayed within this area. So if we go back into the web area format libraries, for that shopping list product record format, in the example I've got here, there is a few additional hooks that we've added. So we've added 3 hooks that use the ordering aspect or the sorting aspect of the products in the shopping list. So the onChange, that's the JavaScript function that causes the server to update when the user then changes the value. We have the options the user can choose from. Those are the two inputs required for the sorting or the ordering that we have here. And there's a third hook here where we can just show the positioning of the product in the list if we want to as well. Now for updating the quantity inputs, so we need to put in the ID input here, this shopping list product update quantity input ID hook, into an input or an element that contains the value that we want to update the quantity within the shopping list for that particular product. And we also need to put the onClick, which is a JavaScript function, into a button or an element that then triggers the saving or the updating of that quantity against that shopping list for that product. So in this case, I put in a button, but you could use a div or another element that you wanted to use that would trigger when the user clicks on that JavaScript function. Now, you may not want to display the quantity input initially. You may want to hide it, and then the user has to trigger it to display before then they can change the quantity. That is possible to do with a little bit of JavaScript in the area. You may not want to use it to change these quantities at all, so in that case, you'd not embed them into the format. These two enhancements we've added will help users manage the products in the shopping lists more effectively. It leads to increased sales and efficiency from their end. Within the 15.0 TOTECS release, we've added improvements to the product combinations feature to be able to customize the way that the combination fields, field values, and child products that are assigned to parent products are listed. By being able to customize this, it can help users to select the products that they're looking for when you have many products assigned to an overarching representative product. So to take an example, we have a chair here, and then that chair can come in different colors as well as different styles. So the user, once they've chosen both the options, they can then add that product to basket as well as seeing the final pricing and appearance of that product. So with that, we may want to control or change the order in which the options display in both the drop downs here as well as the fields that are listed here. So we can do that by going into the administration center, clicking on the inventory button, and then going into product combinations. And then for our example here, we've got a chair and we've got two combination fields, both color and style. If we right click and click on the edit field context menu option, you can see that there is now an ordering value that we can set for each field. So currently the color size is set to 1 and the style size is set to 2. But if we wanted the style field to appear before the color field, we would just simply need to set a lower value for the style than the color. So if we set the value of 3, the style has a value of 2. Then when we reload the page here, we can see that the style field is getting listed before the color field. Now it's a similar case for the value options. We can see all the different value options that we have for our combination profile here, and there is an ordering field. Now note that in the administration center, you can't edit the ordering field here, but you can do so by using the product combinations data import. Allows you to customize the ordering values. And additionally, for a product, if we find an example parent combination product under the product combinations tab, for the child products that are assigned to it, there is also an ordering field here that can be set for when product combination data is imported into the TOTECS platform. So we may want to control the products if they're listed in a list style as opposed to a drop-down style that we have here. We may want to change the ordering of these products, and we can do so by using the product combinations data imports. So these can have different values, and then we can target which products appear first within a list. So the important point here is that you want to be managing product combination data ideally within the connectors datasets feature, since that gives you a lot of flexibility and control over setting up product combination data, which can be quite extensive when you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of different combinations. And the links to the information about how to set up combinations can be found within this connector video release. Within the 15.1 TOTECS release, we've added an improvement to the integration to SmartFreight in order to be able to control the receiver name that appears on the delivery information within SmartFreight system based on the organization or company name in the delivery address has been set. If not, else the contact name of the person who is submitting the order. So if we take an example here, we've added 4 products to basket and we're now going through the order checkout process. And where the user now has the option to choose the delivery address where they want to ship those goods to. The customer could be denoting that this delivery is for an organization by specifying a company name or organization name, or they can specify instead it's for their own personal order, so they may not put in the company or organization name there. Once this order has been submitted and it went to SmartFreight, within the SmartFreight system, it has a receiver name field. It's actually called the receiver name, not the company name. It's falsely labeled, but this is the field that may appear on the printing labels as well as within SmartFreight's system. So previously, it would always choose the company name, and if the company name didn't exist, then it would default back to the account's company name. Now that's fine for if you've got an account set up for a particular organization, but when you're selling in the retail space, the account may represent many different people, or the general retail, your general retail customer. Having a general company name such as Web Retail wouldn't make sense in that field. So within the administration center, under the stores menu, under the freight providers, if we go down onto the SmartFreight settings, for the setting SmartFreight order receiver name, this setting has been added where you can control which name should be set in the field's receiver name. That is this field here. So by default, it's set to the behavior that was set before, where it would try to get the organization's name from the delivery address. And if that was not set or it had a blank value, then it'd use the account's company name. So instead, you can then choose this option, which is to use the organization's name from the delivery address. And if that's not set, then set the receiver name to the contact name of the address. And only if that's not set would it then default back to the account's company name field. So this is typically, you'd want to set this value to that if you're selling both into the retail space as well as directly for business to business trading, when this setting would be a good option to set it as there. Otherwise, if you're always selling to businesses, to specific accounts, then that it can be left as that option if you'd want it to be. So this setting ensures that the correct information is getting passed across the SmartFreight, which in then turn is getting printed on the labels of the goods that have been ordered and then getting delivered to the end customer who requested that. Within the 15.0 release, we've added an improvement to the TOTECS platform to be able to display additional freight carrier information for invoices when those invoices have been queried from connected business systems. They have that freight data stored in those records. So in our example here, I'm logged in as a user who has the account ACC123. So clicking into that can take me to a content managed web page that contains a invoice listing area. And if we click on to view the details of an invoice, so I've got an example here. When this web page is loaded, it has a customer account invoice area on the page, and all the details from this invoice are retrieved in real time from a connected business system through the connected software set up for this project. So the new capability we have now is if the invoice in the connected system have all this different freight information, then we can display it in the invoice, helping the users to understand which carrier is delivering the order, as well as getting other information such as freight tracking codes. We've got a number of different fields that are available. We can display the account of the carrier that is used to send it. We can get the code of the carrier that we may have in our backend system, as well as the name of the carrier. So in our example here, we have Australia Post as the carrier, and we can get the consignment note code or identifier and display that. We can also display the service that is being used by that carrier. So Australia Post may have an express service, they may have a standard service, they may have an overnight service. We can display the code of that service to the user, so that gives them an idea of when that can be delivered. We can also display the tracking code. If we wanted to, we could then go to Australia's Post website, enter the tracking number here, and then we can find out where that delivery is from Australia Post or whoever the freight carrier is. Now, we don't have to display all this information. We may want to display the carrier's name, the service, and the tracking code, but you've got the option here if the data is available in this invoicing information. And we can also customize the layout so it doesn't have to look like this. We could have the data going horizontally, we could bold different text. It's up to you really to control how you want to configure and where you want to display that information. So now to set it up, first, the business system that's connected, that this data is coming from, must be set within the invoicing data. Otherwise, we're simply going to display empty fields. Within the administration center, if we go into the websites interface, the first thing is we must have a connection to allow that data to be flowing through. It must be configured within the connector itself to be able to retrieve the invoicing data out of a connected business system or any data source where it can be made available. Within the websites interface, we must have created a content managed web page that then contains an invoice detail area, such as we have here. And we can see in that area that it has the format customer account invoice. So if we go into the web page area format libraries and go down to the account inquiry section and then go into the customer account invoice format, there are a few additional data hooks that we now have available to display in it. All these format hooks that start with invoice_freight_carrier, that is all the data that we have now available that we can display within the invoice. So the account code, the carrier's code, the consignment, the carrier names, the carrier service code, and the tracking codes. So in our example here, I've embedded them within this table that appears on the right hand side of the invoice, but I could easily put that information, say, on the left hand side, below the lines, or above the lines. It's really up to us where we want to position them and how we want to style them. And if there's no data in the invoice, then these fields will simply display as empty format hooks. It's just a case in choosing which data we want to display in the format. So as I was saying before, we might want to get rid of the carrier code, but leave the carrier name. We may want to get rid of the freight system code, as well as we might want to get rid of the account code. So if we save those settings, you can now see that we've reduced the amount of information that is available for the user to see there. Within the TOTECS 15.1 release, we've added the ability for order checkout submission areas to be able to submit order data to Google Analytics via its Google Tag Manager feature to allow additional analytics and metrics to be reported and searchable within Google's analytics system. Google may be able to provide additional information about the users and the orders being created, as well as looking at trends and other metrics that it decides to use within its own platform, including sales performance, and it could also provide more information about the users who are submitting the orders, particularly in retail-based or B2C-based workflows. So within my basket here, I've got 2 product quantities for $33. When I submit this order, there is the ability for this order information to be submitted across to Google, and then Google, within its analytics engine, it will then be able to update data and provide those metrics and trends that it makes available. So the order information that can be sent across to Google is the overall order data, including the order total, the amount of tax, the amount of shipping freight, as well as the order ID itself. And optionally, we can also pass in the product information, including the product code, also known as an SKU, the product's name, the price that it was purchased for, as well as the quantity that was purchased. Now the lines are optional, you don't have to pass that information across. You may only want to give Google the overall totals. It's up to you on how much information you want Google to allow to get access to. Now, the way it works is that when the user clicks the submit button, when the result of that submission is successful and the user returns to this successful page, that a separate request will be passed off to Google from the user's browser in order to advise Google of the order data, as well as the information about the user and the user's browser. So that's how Google can get more information about the user, by using the browser cookies that are embedded within the browser. And there is a caveat here where it is only if the user allows Google's cookies to track that user, and optionally it could be based on also if the user is logged into the browser or not. That will dictate on how much additional information about the user Google has access to when it's logging its statistics. Now, when each order is submitted and it is allowed to go through to Google servers, the transactions will get listed just like they have here. Of course, that would be in the currency required, and that will tell the totals, as well as you to go into more in-depth details of what's going on with those transactions, and giving you broad trends such as we have here. In order to set this up, there's a few things you need to be aware of. So this diagram shows you what needs to be configured to allow Google Analytics to be able to track your order data. Firstly, you must have a Google account set up, so you must be signed up to Google account, and you must have linked that account to the Google Analytics feature. Once your Google account is linked to your Google Analytics, you also then need to link this thing called Google Tag Manager to your account, and you also have to link Google Tag Manager to Google Analytics to allow e-commerce based data to flow across into the Google Analytics feature. So Google have this concept called tags, and they have this service called the Tag Manager in order to manage tags. You create different tags based on the different types of data that you want to capture, or the different events that you want to capture. So we would create one tag for the order submission, but you could create other tags for other different events that are happening in your website. In this case, TOTECS is only concerned with an order submission tag. So when an order is created by the user and it is successfully submitted, then the browser will then pass the sales order data across to Google against the corresponding tag that has been set up for that type of sales order event. And then if the Google Tag Manager is linked to its e-commerce feature, then the sales order data can flow all the way then across into Google Analytics service, where it can then be reported and the data collated. So that's the overall mechanism. It can be a little bit complex to work out how to link your Google Analytics account to your Google Tag Manager account, then set up the tags, and then you also have to enable the e-commerce functionality to allow the Tag Manager and the Google Analytics to then talk to each other. So in order to get this working, firstly you need to have signed up with a Google account. If you go to google.com and you go to the account, that's where it allows you to go through the forms to create the Google account there. And you may already have an account set up. If you've already set up a Gmail email address, then you have a Google account already. Now once you've done that, if you go to Google search for Google Analytics and go to the Analytics there, what you want to do is sign into Google Analytics with your Google account. Now, if you haven't previously set up a Google Analytics account, then you need to click on the Start Measuring button or whatever buttons they have available to set up the Google Analytics against your Google account. Now that we're within our Google Analytics account, we need to go down to the Admin button. And the first thing we want to do is go into e-commerce settings. And then we need to click on this button to enable e-commerce. And you can also turn on enhanced e-commerce reporting, but it's not necessary for the order information to start going to the Google Analytics. So once that's turned on, click the Save button and then navigate back. Now within there, then go into click on the Property Settings menu item. And then within the Property Settings, we need to copy this tracking ID. We want to just put that, say, in Notepad, because we're going to need to reference it later when we set up Google Tag Manager. So the tracking ID enables Google Tag Manager to know which Google Analytics account to send the order tracking information across to allow the analytics to happen. So once you've got that, you can get out of Google Analytics and go across to Google Tag Manager. So you can search for Google Tag Manager and click on its link. If you're not logged in, you'll be asked then to log in. Now, if you haven't previously created a Google Tag Manager account, then you need to click on the Create button. So you'd give it whatever the name of your company is. Now, what we're setting up is an account in Google Tag Manager, but it's getting linked to our overall Google account, just to make it a little more complex. We need to set up a container if one hasn't already been set up for your site. And we wanted to set the target platform as web. Then click on the Create button. Now you also have to agree to Google's terms, so you may want to read them through before you want to start using their service. And if you're okay with that, click the Yes button. Now Google will come up and say that there's some code that you can embed immediately into all your web pages, and then it's going to start tracking page views, that kind of things. But that's not necessarily needed for if we only want to get order information. So we can just close this dialog. The first thing we need to do is create in a user-defined variable. So click on the new button there and then click on that button. So within the variable type, we need to choose the Google Analytics settings variable. This is where we need to paste in our tracking ID of our Google Analytics account. So we paste that in there, set the cookie domain to auto. Don't worry about the more settings and just click the Save button. Now you can give it its own unique name. We'll just call it Google Analytics Settings. So we now have our user-defined variable created. Now we need to go into the tag section and we need to create a new tag. And this is the thing that is going to then allow submission events, order submissions, to be then tracked and then passed on to Google Analytics. So we create a new tag and just click the tag configuration. Now we just want to get the Google Analytics Universal Analytics tag type. Set our tracking type to transaction and set our global analytics settings to just this curly brackets Google Analytics setting value. And then that is all the work that we need to do for that tag. Now we need to create a trigger. So we need to create a new trigger and we want this to be a custom event trigger. And we can give that name whatever we want for this event. Let's just call it a sale and click the Save button. We'll give that trigger the same name. Alright, so we now have our custom event, which is the sale, that is going to do the triggering, and we got that linked. So this sale event is then going to be triggered to our tag here, and we want to give that a name as well. So let's just give that tag also the name sale, and then click the Save button there. So we now have our tag. We have our trigger or our event that's going to trigger the data to allow the data from the website containing the sale information to be registered against this sale tag. And then that is then linked to the variable, which then has the Google Analytics that enables us to then pass the data to Google Analytics platform. Now, with all that setup work now done, we need to go back into the administration center of our content managed website that is hosted on TOTECS. So within the administration center, we'll click on the website's menu button, then click in the website's menu item. Then within the website where we want to have the order data being tracked by Google, we need to find the content managed web page that contains the order checkout submission areas. So in this specific example, we've got a page called checkout. It could be named anything. Then within both the guest order checkout submission areas as well as the order checkout submission areas, there are new settings that are available in these areas. And within there's a section called order reporting. And for Google, this is where we need to now link the website to Google. So that's creating that link for that content managed website for that specific area and Google Tag Manager. So we need to get the ID of the Google Tag Manager container. In the Tag Manager, if we're still in that container, we just copy the container ID, which you can see in the header bar here, and we paste that into the Google Tag Manager ID here. Now we need to get the name of our event. So if we called it the tag sale, then we need to put in the word sale here. There's two settings here. Firstly, if you want this area to be able to pass the order data across to Google. So if it's set to no, then these settings are not relevant. It has to be set to yes in order to allow that data to get passed across to Google's Tag Manager feature. And the second option is whether or not you want to pass product data across to Google. So if you don't want Google to know what products you're selling, then you would leave this set to no. If you're okay for Google to know what products you're selling and for what prices, then you would set this value to yes. So this links this area to this specific tag. You may have two areas on your content managed website if you allow guest order checkout. So then you would have to set up the IDs of both the tag manager container ID as well as the tag's event name. And if that is done, then both these areas, when guest users submit their orders as well as logged in users submit their orders, then allow that order data to go through. But if you don't want, say, the logged in users order data to go to Google, then you can set this as empty, and vice versa. You could set the guest checkout not to allow its data to be passed to Google. Now you can also set up separate tags. You may want to be able to distinguish between logged in users and their order information being tracked, and using a separate tag in order to do that. And then you might set up another tag for your guest, or you may have many areas and many content managed web pages that have different order areas. So this allows you to create many tags, and then you can have your statistics and data being analyzed against a given tag. And then you could also set up tags to go to different Google Analytics accounts if you really wanted to, and get really complex as well. And that would be relevant if you have multiple content managed websites set up for your TOTECS project and you want different tracking data going to different Google Analytics accounts. So it can get quite detailed and quite complex if you want to, but it can provide you that more separated reporting metrics rather than having it all lumped into one Google Analytics account. So once that's all done and configured up, when the users proceed through the order checkout process, if it has been set up correctly, after the user clicks the submit button and they reach this page here, behind the scenes in this page, it is going to pass the order information across to Google Tag Manager, which is then going to try to forward it onto Google Analytics. So the things that can fail is that you haven't set up the correct identifier of the container ID within the Tag Manager. That's not correct. You have not linked the correct Google Analytics account to a variable, which is then linked to the tags themselves using those curly brackets Google Analytics settings. That's how it allows those linkages to happen. Or the Google Analytics account that you have set up has the wrong ID set up in this Google Analytics settings. Also, the Google Analytics account has a problem with it. That may also be the cause of why the data is not flowing through. Google have made this a little bit complex to set up, but once it is set up, then it may get you that order statistics data you're looking for. And you typically want to be doing this for retail based orders where you don't have a lot of information about your users, particularly in guest checkout on who they are and where they come from. Google Analytics may be able to provide additional information there. There's a big caveat here in that you have to be willing to pass order data across to Google's to use this feature. If you don't want Google to know what your order data is because you're providing great insights into your sales, sales on your website, you may not want to turn this on, and continuing to use the analytics that we've got available in the back end for TOTECS, both within the orders interface as well as the sales summary statistics that can also give you great insights into the sales that have been made, and the many various filters you've got to be able to filter on specific accounts or specific types of details of orders that are going through. So that may be an alternative if you're not comfortable with handing over more sales information across to Google. And so that's a wrap up of the TOTECS release. If you've got any more questions or comments, you can always go to the TOTECS.com website, click on the help menu and go to forums. From here, you can log in and ask any questions you have about all the features and enhancements we've made today, as well as view all the release notes across these different platform releases. Until next time, have a great day.